Christ is risen. Today in the church, the second Sunday after Easter, we celebrate the myrrh-bearing women. These women were directly involved in the Easter story. They witnessed Jesus' death on the cross, they helped prepare him for his tomb and bury him. In addition, they were the ones tending to Jesus' grave on Holy Saturday when the tomb was discovered empty. We learn of this on Holy Saturday when Mary Magdalene came to tend Jesus' tomb. She found it empty. Where his body had been, there were two angels sat there. Mary, on seeing the life of Jesus, started to cry. The angels began to console Mary. As she turned around, she saw a gardener near the tomb and began to ask him where the body of Jesus was, or if he had moved him. When the gardener said her name, Mary, she recognized him at once to be Jesus. She was very happy to see him and celebrated the fact that he was alive again. She wanted to tell all the disciples about what she'd seen and to take Jesus to them. But Jesus turned to her and told her that he was not yet ready to reveal himself to anybody else, as he still had a lot of work to do in order to be with his Father again. However, he told her to go to the disciples and tell them of the good news that he'll be with them soon. This story shows us the importance of faith in our religion. While many of his close followers began to doubt that Jesus had been anything special at all, the myrrh-bearing women remained devoted to Jesus and continued to look after him. In addition, Jesus often gave messages and signs to those people who were not normally the sort of authority or people who would not normally be listened to. He had the opportunity to appear to his disciples Peter and Paul, as they had been at his tomb that morning. However, he chose to appear to Mary because he believed that along with her faith to God, she would be the person who'd bring the good news of Christ through the words of God himself, rather than through their position of authority. This shows that Jesus viewed women as a vital part of our faith. While we often overlook the importance Jesus placed on women, this act alone shows us that. He believed that not only are women not less important than men, but through their devotion to God, they are just as able to become evangelizers, to spread the good news of the resurrection alongside the men. The disciples initially found it difficult to believe the words of the women who came with the good news. However, through their devotion to God, we place the same importance on the words and advice from our spiritual sisters as we do our spiritual brothers. We also see Mary's faithfulness to God, as she was the only person who was with him through his crucifixion, death, burial, and she remained at his side in the tomb long after all the others had left. Overall, the main thing we can learn from the story of the myrrh-bearing women is one of faith. Through her faith, Mary had the courage to tell people what she'd seen and what she'd heard. Even though the people around her did not necessarily have the same faith she had in Christ, she was given the strength to believe in God. This is something we can take forward in our lives. In our daily lives, we will encounter people who do not have the same faith as us. This does not mean we should hide our faith because it's not normal or it could be uncool. We need to be proud of our faith, like Mary and the other myrrh-bearing women, because then we'll be the first people who will receive Christ in his second coming. From next Wednesday, Father Christodolo and I will be starting an Orthodox book club, where we'll be discussing various Orthodox texts and how they can help us live our lives in Christ. We'll be starting with the parables of Christ, and more details will appear on the Facebook page sooner, closer to the time. As always, stay safe, and may God be with you. Have a lovely day.